It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. President Zelensky vows to fight on as Ukraine marks its Independence Day, but says a meeting with Vladimir Putin could be the best solution to end the conflict. A message of support from the King to Ukraine as the UK government pledges renewed military support for Kyiv. Also tonight, a fast-track asylum appeals process to be introduced as unease and protests continue over the use of migrant hotels. A 15-year-old boy arrested with another man over an arson attack on a restaurant in Ilford. Plus, colour, costumes and controversy over safety as this year's Notting Hill Carnival gets underway with 140 arrests made. Plus, Manchester United are still looking for their first Premier League win of the new season after being held to a 1-1 draw at Craven Cottage. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Good evening. The Ukrainian president has hailed King Charles as a true inspiration after the monarch sent him a letter of support on Ukraine's Independence Day. President Zelensky, hosting foreign dignitaries in Kyiv, vowed today to fight on, but said that a meeting with President Putin would be the most effective way forward amid stalled efforts to end the war. We'll have more on the UK's renewed commitment to supporting Ukraine's military efforts in a moment. But first, our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, reports.
In Kyiv, the mood was defiant, proud. Today was a celebration of independence, of throwing off the shackles of Soviet rule. 34 years on, as a different Russian regime threatens their freedom, their president promised peace was coming.
Today, Ukraine celebrates Independence Day, fighting, defending itself against attacks and air raid alarms. And very importantly, we are strong and not alone. Every day we are pushing this war back to where it came from, to the Russian sky and Russian soil.
But the fight for freedom has come at a heavy cost. In Kyiv, Canada's Mark Carney joined Ukraine's president in remembering the fallen, while other allies sent messages of support. The British Prime Minister and German Chancellor, some of many European leaders underlining their allegiance online. But more consequentially, a note from a US president impatient for peace. The people of Ukraine have an unbreakable spirit, and your country's courage inspires many, Donald Trump wrote. Now is the moment to bring an end to the senseless killing. But peace at what cost? Some fear, losing interest, Trump will force a quick, bad deal. In a video to the nation, President Zelensky vowed not to sell them short.
Справедливий мир, яким буде наше майбутнє вирішувати тільки нам.
The swapping of more than 140 prisoners of war was a tiny sign of limited cooperation.
If we can do the ceasefire, great.
But the optimism about the possibility of a peace deal from a few days ago, when Ukraine's European allies flanked Zelensky at the White House, is fading. Progress is stalling, as is Russia's foreign minister, when it comes to a possible meeting between Putin and Zelensky.
There is no meeting planned, and I'm not challenging this. But you cannot, I think, understand what I am saying. Putin is ready to meet with Zelensky when the agenda would be ready for a summit. And this agenda is not ready at all.
If it has any hope of getting Russia to the table, Ukraine knows it must keep the US on side. As a show of appreciation, Trump's special envoy was awarded the Order of Merit in Kyiv.
You thank so much. Thanks to you, to the United States President.
But diplomacy moves slowly. For now, Ukrainians must continue to fight to protect the independence they cherish so dearly. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News.
Well, as mentioned, King Charles shared a message of support to Volodymyr Zelensky today, and that sign of diplomatic friendship was paired with a pledge from the UK government to continue to train Ukrainian soldiers. Fraser Maud reports.
At a British army base somewhere in the east of England, Ukrainian soldiers pause their military leadership training to celebrate their independence. These soldiers are the latest cohort of over 58,000 Ukrainians to have received training in the UK as part of Operation Interflex. They're far from home, but their national pride and determination is undiminished.
What's really carved in my heart is this day is a remembrance day for all the fallen soldiers who were fighting for our country, who were fighting for our freedom, and this day is a remembrance day for me, first of all.
Of course, I'm very happy to be here, but at the same time, it's quite a sad day for me because I cannot share the joy of the super important celebration for us Ukrainians with my family and my closest ones. But it is great to be here and to have the ability to train here.
King Charles, who met with Volodymyr Zelensky in June, reiterated his support for the people of Ukraine through social media. I keep feeling the greatest and deepest admiration for the unbreakable courage and spirit of the Ukrainian people, he said. I remain hopeful that our countries will be able to further work closely together to achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. In reply, President Zelensky said His Majesty's kind words are a true inspiration for our people during the difficult time of war. We appreciate the United Kingdom's leadership in supporting Ukraine and our just cause to defend freedom from tyranny and ensure a lasting peace in Ukraine and throughout Europe. Operation Interflex involves an army of nations, 13 in all, most of them represented here as a sign of continuing solidarity with Ukraine.
There's definite value in what we're doing here, that we teach the basic recruits how to be soldiers, and for them that allows them to be survivable and to be lethal and to be resilient. So they get back out to Ukraine, they join their units and they can take the fight to the enemy.
Many of the soldiers here say they take great comfort from seeing Ukrainian Independence Day being marked in other countries around the world. A celebration of the history, tradition and culture of the country that they're fighting so hard to defend. It's been an emotional day for the soldiers of all the nations represented here. A day to acknowledge the value of the partnerships and friendships they've forged with their Ukrainian counterparts, who'll soon be back on the front lines. Fraser Maud, Sky News.
After days of scuffles and demos, the government has promised to reform its asylum appeals process to speed up decisions and reduce the backlog of cases. It follows a decision by the Home Office to appeal a ruling that would stop migrants being housed in the Bell Hotel in Essex from September. Ashna Haranag reports from Norwich, the scene of another protest today.
Save our kids! In Norwich, their flags billow in the wind, and so do their voices. They're protesting on the doorstep of the Brook Hotel, which for the past few years has been home to over 100 asylum seekers. It's now become a beacon of unrest.
How did you feel when you saw what Epping Council managed to do last week? Did you think, oh, it's probable we could do this?
We will do it. There's no doubt we will do it. We'll be here every week until it is done. It's as simple as that.
Norfolk and Suffolk are my local areas, and I feel if Norfolk's affected by it, then I can't just sit on the sofa and do nothing. I've got to come out and do something about it.
Since the council in Epping won their temporary injunction over the closure of the Bell Hotel, the domino effect is already in motion. Dozens more are seeking to do the same. Uncharted territory the government wants to get ahead of by tackling the delays in the courts when asylum seekers try to overturn their rejected application. A backlog that's booming. There are at least 51,000 asylum appeals waiting to be heard by judges. On average, it takes more than a year to reach a decision. Instead, the Home Office wants to set up a new independent panel of adjudicators to deal solely with asylum appeals. They will legally be required to get to cases within 24 weeks.
Demonstrations like this are hard to ignore, so it's perhaps no coincidence then that we've seen movement from the Home Office, that they're clamping down on the asylum appeal applications. And that's because a lot of those who do lodge appeals are housed at the taxpayer's expense, and many of them are in hotels.
Those working in the system say this latest plan is just papering over the cracks.
The whole system is wrong at the core. It's essentially like saying you have a house with shaky walls and a shaky foundation. It's not going to be mended by sticking a couple of tiles on the roof. You need to really restore the whole system from roots upwards.
But that would take time, which those in power don't seem to have. These past few days prove we are a nation unsettled. The government wants to end the use of hotels by 2029, but it's not good enough for some, whose calls are becoming harder to ignore. Ashna Harinag, Sky News, in Norwich.
Well, our chief political correspondent John Craig joins us now from Downing Street. John, the government will be hoping that their plans to speed up the asylum appeals process will appease those that we see demonstrating on the streets. Is there any chance of that?
Well, not according to the politicians who've been criticising the move. The Conservatives, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp said this is nothing like far enough. Richard Tice from Reform UK has said it's tinkering at the edges. The problem is it doesn't address the fundamental problem of not stopping the boats, smashing the gangs, as the Prime Minister calls it. Now, what this new plan is intended to do is speed up deportation, so there are fewer people in the hotels, and saving the country money, and of course, obviously trying to diffuse the tensions and the arguments, the clashes that we've seen outside hotels over this weekend. Now, the problem is, of course, even these so-called experts, the adjudication panels, who will speed the process up, may allow some of the appeals to go through. It may end up with not that many more people being deported, even though some of them will be deported more quickly. So it's a gamble, obviously. It's something the government is pinning its hopes on, along with the one-in, one-out scheme that the Prime Minister agreed with President Macron of France. But as for stopping the boats, well, no. The government is planning this week another propaganda campaign over on the French coast with leaflets, videos, all sorts of plans to try and deter people from coming over. So far, those just have not worked. Now, there are some politicians, one Labour peer, for example, Lord Glassman, saying it's time to send in the army and drones. Now, Boris Johnson the Navy, I beg your pardon, bring in the Navy. Now, Boris Johnson tried this in 2022. He put the Navy in charge of trying to stop the boats rather than Border Force. But there was squabbling between the Ministry of Defence, which always resisted the move, and the Home Office, and Rishi Sunak scrapped it. And when it's been raised in Parliament in recent months, the Ministry of Defence has said no, the job of the Navy is to monitor foreign warships, not stop the boats. So that doesn't look as though it's likely to happen, but the government is getting to the point where it's going to have to do something pretty radical. The Tories and the Reform UK want to pull Britain out of the European Convention on Human Rights. Some Labour politicians, David Blunkett and Jack Straw, former Labour Home Secretaries, have added their voices to that. But this Prime Minister, of course, with his background as a human rights lawyer, is not likely to do that. So the problems get worse. This will help, but critics say it's not enough.
John, thank you very much. Israeli airstrikes have targeted Yemen's capital city, Sana'a. The IDF say they struck Houthi targets, including a military site where the presidential palace is located and 2 power stations. Israel says the strikes were carried out in response to repeated attacks by the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels against Israel in recent days. The Houthi-run health ministry say at least 4 people have been killed and 67 wounded. More international aid has been airdropped into Gaza 2 days after the world's leading authority on food crises declared parts of the Strip are experiencing famine. It comes as witnesses claim 4 Palestinians looking for aid were shot by Israeli forces while travelling through a military zone south of Gaza City to a food distribution site. A 54-year-old man and a 15-year-old boy have been arrested on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger life after a restaurant fire in East London on Friday night. 2 people remain in a critical condition in hospital following the fire in Ilford. The restaurant suffered extensive damage in the fire.
Ignition and liftoff. Go Falcon, go Dragon.
SpaceX has successfully launched a rocket carrying supplies to the International Space Station. Later tonight, Elon Musk's SpaceX will be attempting a 10th test flight of its Starship vehicle and Super Heavy booster, 3 months after the last attempt ended in failure. Notting Hill Carnival, Europe's biggest street party, got underway in West London today. And alongside the familiar scenes of celebration, a controversial police operation to ensure public safety. This evening, the Metropolitan Police confirmed that they had made 140 arrests at the Carnival and in the surrounding area. Our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer, sent this report from Notting Hill.
The sights and sounds of the Notting Hill Carnival have always been about bringing people together. But how you keep safe the 2 million that come here is divisive in itself. Campaigners particularly objecting to the use of facial recognition cameras this time around. But after 2 murders here last year, police argue it's needed.
This is about protecting the public from people who are coming to Carnival who pose a risk to public safety. We absolutely hear the concerns, but for live facial recognition, it's been tested, and we do not feel there's any bias or discrimination in its use, so we'll continue to use it.
It is the biggest policing event that the Met Police carries out each year. At their special operations room, they're processing what's being fed in from those on foot. Intelligence-led interventions in the run-up have placed either police bail or probation licence conditions on over 200 people not to come to Carnival. While crime lays on the shoulders of police, managing crowds is down to organisers, who had a last-minute scramble just a few weeks ago to find £1 million worth of extra funding to provide extra safety and infrastructure measures.
The message we put over matches what the stewards are saying might be a message that's needed in the area.
From signs to steer people away to improved means of talking to those out on the sound systems.
What we agreed with the police was that we needed the police to stand back, so they focused on their primary responsibility was crime, and we would step up and take responsibility for the event and the crowding. Now, to do that, we had to have extra resources on that we could compensate for some of the things the police were previously doing.
Staging such a big event on ordinary streets is challenging.
From its 60s roots in resistance against racism, the Carnival has snowballed in size. The challenge for organisers is how you attempt to control and manage something that is all about, at its heart, representing freedom.
As for those who suggest that what happens here could be better supervised in an area like Hyde Park,
it's a convenient way to box off black people, as usual. So no, it shouldn't be moved to Hyde Park.
Why would you? Why would you? This is about us recognising each other and seeing on 2 days how much we have in common.
True celebration of soca, different cultures, different musics, people coming together and young and old mixing, so it's really important.
While it is often crime that sadly makes headlines here, there are many who feel the reasons behind the Notting Hill Carnival are as important to mark today as they ever were. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
The Democratic governor of the state of Illinois has criticised Donald Trump after the president revealed his intention to send the National Guard to Chicago. Governor J.B. Pritzker called the plans an abuse of power that would, in his words, create chaos. It's understood the Pentagon is looking to deploy the US Army as part of Mr. Trump's promise to crack down on crime, homelessness and undocumented immigration. It comes after a similar deployment in Washington, D.C. Emma Birchley reports.
In the US Capitol, this was the response from some at least to the National Guard taking to the streets. A move by Donald Trump to tackle crime that he's described as out of control. And now growing concern and anger that the Republican president is planning the same in another city run by Democrats, This time, Chicago.
Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent, and we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this, and it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. When we're ready, we'll go in and we'll straighten out Chicago, just like we did D.C.
But there, as in Washington, violent crime is actually falling. The sense of emergency certainly wasn't too evident on the streets.
I feel very safe, you know. I mean, it's like lovely, the weather's good.
I've been here for just over a week now, and I haven't had any problem.
I don't think that we need military in Chicago, New York, D.C.
The response from the governor of Illinois said it all. There is no emergency that warrants the President of the United States federalizing the Illinois National Guard, deploying the National Guard from other states, or sending active duty military within our own borders. Donald Trump is attempting to manufacture a crisis, politicise Americans who serve in uniform, and continue abusing his power to distract from the pain he's causing working families. And it's a plan described by the city's vilified mayor as uncoordinated, uncalled for and unsound. But none of that will stop the president, intent on showing he'll stop at nothing to clear the streets of crime. Emma Birchley, Sky News.
Questions are being asked about whether the UK's decision to establish relations with Syria's new government means that former jihadis who have been stripped of their British citizenship will be allowed to return home. Our data and forensics correspondent Tom Cheshire reports on the possible fate of the so-called stateless citizens.
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, went from a jihadist movement once aligned to al-Qaeda to forming the official government of Syria. A monumental transformation for them, their country, and the wider Middle East. But potentially too for British people who went to Syria and who were stripped of their citizenship as a result on the grounds of national security.
I am in Damascus. Allahu Akbar, the Bashar regime has fallen.
Tokir Sharif, better known as Tox, went to Syria in 2012 as an aid worker.
As you can see, there's even still lots of artillery that has been captured.
He was accused of being part of a group affiliated with al-Qaeda, which he denies, and the then Home Secretary deprived him of his British citizenship in 2017.
As of now, I am deprived of my UK citizenship, but I'm not a convicted terrorist. And the reason for that is because we boycotted the SIAC secret courts, which don't allow you to see any of the evidence presented against you. And one of the things that I always called for was, look, put me in front of a jury, let's have an open hearing.
It's very humbling to be here.
HTS is still a proscribed terrorist organisation, but the British government has established relations with it. The Foreign Secretary travelled to Damascus to meet the jihadist-turned-president, the man who swapped his nom de guerre of al-Jalani for Ahmed al-Shara. If the British government takes HTS off the terror list, what does that mean for those who lost their citizenship after being accused of being part of it? We're talking about a significant number of people. According to the Joint Committee on Human Rights, the UK uses deprivation of citizenship orders more than almost any country in the world. The peak was in 2017, at the height of Islamic State in Syria, when scores of people left the UK for that country. And because people cannot be made entirely stateless and need a second nationality, there are worries of racism. Countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh offer dual nationality where other nations don't. We made a Freedom of Information request to the Home Office to ask for a breakdown of figures by nationality, but were twice refused on national security grounds. That makes the whole thing a bit opaque. The Home Secretary has tremendous power to remove people's citizenship, and it's hard for people to appeal that. The independent reviewer of terrorism legislation thinks things should be clearer.
I do think there is a problem when you have people whose relationship with the country that they're left with is really technical, and they may never have realised that they had a relation, had that citizenship before, and may never have gone to that country. Me and my predecessors have all said, owing to how frequently this power is used, it should be something that the independent reviewer should have the power to review.
Even if the government does remove HTS from the terror list, it wouldn't automatically invalidate decisions to deprive people of their citizenship.
Decisions that have been made years ago in the interest of the British public have to remain. We can't sort of go through previous cases, nitpicking through it, wasting time and money. For those that have a secondary citizenship, and those who do fall under the category of being able to have their British citizenship removed, then I think that is an entirely appropriate thing to do when we consider the dreadful risk that they pose to the public.
But those born and raised in Britain, who joined the same cause and lost their citizenship as a result, might reasonably ask why that should remain the case. Tom Cheshire, Sky News.
Time now to catch up on all the very latest sports news with Mark.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Sorry, I just have a German passport. Hopefully I can convince them and show them and prove them that I'm proud to be the English manager.
For only the third time in history, the FA have turned to a foreign manager to take charge of the men's England team. Thomas Tuchel follows in the footsteps of Sven-Göran Eriksson.
If we don't do results, of course, they will try to hang me, but even if I was an Englishman, they hang me. So that's...
And Fabio Capello.
A winner with a capital W. That was the template. This is the man.
When the news about Tuchel broke, there was a mixed media reaction. Some in Tuchel see a Champions League winning manager and the best candidate available if you want to win a World Cup. That's certainly how the FA bosses view it. But for others, there's a more fundamental principle here. They believe that an Englishman should be in charge of England.
Well, I was hoping we'd get an English manager, but when you look at the choices, there are very few, aren't they?
The jobs are so prestigious and there's so much money in the job that people are tempted to spread the net wide.
There's nothing in the water that stops it. It's all about opportunity. I think it's probably a little bit simplistic just to put it down to national borders.
On whichever side of the debate you fall, there is one fact which is indisputable. The pool of English coaches at the elite level of the game is pretty shallow. And the key question is, why?
What we are deemed as English coaches, we're responsible for.
Do you feel like to get a job in the Premier League as an Englishman, you have to be promoted to the division?
I would say 99 times out of 100.
You can't just give people jobs.
I want to try and help in any way that I can produce more English managers.
I'm at St George's Park. Opened in 2012, the FA intended this place to be a centre of excellence and a destination of choice for players, coaches, administrators and officials alike. Why have the FA turned to the continent to replace an English manager who's been the most successful in the top job since Sir Alf Ramsey? Well, to answer that question, you have to look much deeper within the game. Before the birth of the Premier League, the English First Division was won predominantly by teams with British managers. 38 Englishmen, 10 Scotsmen and an Irishman in Bob Kyle. The Premier League was formed in 1992 and that date coincides with the last time an English manager was in charge of a team that won the top division. If I'd said to you back in 1992 that no English manager would win the top division for another 33 years and counting, you'd have been shocked, wouldn't you?
No, my first response would have been, don't be stupid, based on what I saw at the time. Don't be stupid. It's not sadness, it's just a lot of that sentimentality. But sometimes it does you good to be sentimental. My desire is, or would be, it's the England team, we need an England coach. But what I think of as ideal has to then be placed in perspective with regard to the reality. And the reality being, do we think there are people around who can take the England team to where we'd like it to be in terms of position? And if they decide that they don't think that's possible, I don't see that they can make any other decision. Football, as we all know, has changed, and I think that now, particularly with regard to football and the Premier League in this country's possibly become the...
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview. Tonight, we're joined by President of the Board of Deputies of British Jews, Phil Rosenberg, and Politico journalist Bethany Dawson. Amongst the stories we'll be discussing, this on the front of the Financial Times. Its headline, United Front. Carney shows Kyiv solidarity. We'll be right back. Do stay with us.